All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of YouTube. It's Pastor Dowell. Well, it definitely shouldn't be any surprise that the news media knows exactly what they're doing concerning how to control the U.S. populace. And you would think that with all the allegedly so-called quote-unquote intelligence that we have today, that people would not be so easily coerced and manipulated. It's like I sit there and watch the news media, and I'm going to truly, I would like to say I could blame them for the social conditioning because, they've had a very strong impact on it. But it's sad today when you watch people being comfortable operating like mindless minions. They could put out, for instance, make sure you stock up on hand sanitizer. What's the first thing that unprepared Americans do? They all go bum rush the stores, buy up all the hand sanitizer, buy up every sanitizer you can think of in the United States of America. They all just go into a frenzy and buy it all up. So you have people like myself and my little small community. We don't have to run out there and rush to go buy hand sanitizer because we have a little stash of some of these things. And you have some people in the average American home, they may have some of these things and some of these items. And then if they hear, they may drop by the store from work and may pick up a bottle or two or something like that. But then you got the greed of the unprepared American populace that would literally go and panic buy. Literally go fill up a grocery basket full of hand sanitizer and go grab the largest cart that they can and buy toilet paper. The media says, and make sure you get plenty of toilet paper and paper towels and stuff. And what's the first thing people do? They go into this panic and frenzy because they're glued to the TV. And then they rush the store, even to the point that they have no natural affection. They don't even care about the person next to them. And they could have a cart stacked up full of paper goods. And somebody could come in and say, well, I came here just so I could buy that one. Could I get that one from you? No. And next thing you know, the spirits that come from it, the attitudes, and the people start fighting. They start trading words. And I sit back and I watch this dog and pony circus show. I really, truly do. And I start shaking my head. And I literally say, you know what? This is really, really, really bad when you have a so-called modern day society that simply just will not reject the influence and the paradigm that they're trying to put out in front of us. And if you don't exercise self-autonomy in any way, shape, fashion, or form, in any capacity whatsoever at all, can't you see that we're pretty much doomed as a society? You literally, truly cannot trust in your fellow man, especially in these population centers. America as a whole in a country, totally unprepared. Now, let me digress here for a second. I'll jump back over here on this subject because it's bad when you have people involved in what we'll call panic buying because they're unprepared. And I might add this too before I go forward. Being unprepared and not having a preparedness mindset is totally selfishness. It really is, because if you have a person or a family that has spent their life preparing, some people call it prepping, and then you have these conditions that come upon a people globally. And if you start running out of goods and services because you chose not to prepare, because you chose to be complacent, apathetic, lethargic, pick a superlative, it makes no difference. But you nevertheless chose not to do something because you thought that the day that you're living in, it didn't warn you of tomorrow. You thought that, man, this is just a bunch of nonsense. But it's amazing how if the news media says something, it's all truth. But if your neighbor or someone who can see the forest for the trees says something, then it's a conspiracy theories. And I often ask people all the time, if it's a conspiracy theory, what happens when the theory becomes fact? Well, I was watching last night before I retired, went to bed. I saw President Trump sitting down reading from the teleprompter, telling the American people how they pretty much had to put a travel ban. Watch this now. While everybody was concentrating on China, this coronavirus was mutating at an unprecedented level over in Europe. And he said this coming Friday that he's actually had to implement a travel restriction of all the European countries. And then I think he did one exemption except the UK. I think he may have said that. But can you imagine that though? While everybody's looking at China, all America's looking at China and stuff, nobody's getting screened coming from the UK, even though we see that France, the whole entire country, is decimated. At least that's what they tell us. And I have to continue to keep saying that. I have to continue to keep my mindset of questioning everything because I know how government runs to a certain level. And I also know that, and you people out here really truly need to realize this and understand this, that if it's something that is going to cause a national panic, don't expect your government to get out in front of the news and inform you and tell you everything. Because if the world is already acting like this over this coronavirus, can you imagine if they went out and actually told you the truth about how things are really going and the response and the reaction times, the things the way they are? They're not going to do that and cause a national panic and a frenzy to come over these people. That it's obvious. It's obvious. It's very obvious that the American people as a whole are a bunch of trained, coerced, and manipulated, mindless, unthinking minions. Pretty much. We're docile, dumb, dormant, docile, demoralized, demonized. And I have literally no hope in what you call the American citizens or our fellow man. I don't have a lick of hope in them whatsoever at all. We're so divided as a country. There's no way that we could ever overcome too much of anything unless we start to learn how to unite. So since we are never going to learn how to unite, because most people don't know the voice of envy, most people don't know the voice of jealousy. They can't even discern it when it's taking place, when it happens right before their very eyes. And if you can't discern that, there's no way you can discern the signs of the time. There's no way you can discern what's coming down the pipe. And if you expecting for your neighbor to be benevolent to you, when it's time for him to give up some resources in order to help your better good of your family and stuff, no, I'm gonna tell you what they do. Not only when you down will they step on you, but they'll step over you and continue to keep going. Now, over on my Pateron account, I have a Pateron account over here. I talk about stuff in a little bit greater detail than I do over here on YouTube, because I don't know. YouTube, it seems like they done backed off a little bit as far as their censorship policies and stuff, but we will see. But all these digressions and all these changes that take place is just, if you don't keep your sanity and stuff, it gets enough to make people go schizophrenic. But I'm not going to get involved in all that. But I think more than anything, what's disturbing to me is how easily the American public is controlled. If the news media would have turned around and said, because it's coronavirus and stuff, and we have to have, a good oral hygiene, so you make sure that you have enough toothpaste. Do you know that the American public would literally go out and buy every single tube of toothpaste off the shelves? Do y'all realize that? And then there will be no toothpaste. I don't care. You can pick something. It makes no difference to me. Just pick something. It's totally irrelevant. Just pick anything you want. They have learned how to manipulate this public. And I'm going to tell you what the problem is. The problem is going to their institutions of what they call learning in order to learn how to function in this society right here. If that movie, and I'm going to go back to it again, if that movie, The Matrix, ain't the truth, I don't know what the truth is concerning the way that they have messed with the minds of people, the unsuspecting minds of people. And it's very disappointing to me, because I only know Pretty much when you look at the 370 million people in the United States of America, I only know of a handful of people that's actually truly informed. I mean, not only are we deceived on the social point, we're deceived on the religious point, we're deceived on the political point, we're deceived on the economic point. There's nothing that is what it seems to be. There's nothing true whatsoever in all it seems like. And whatever that truth is, I hope you got the eyes to see and the ears to hear and the heart to be able to know the voice of truth and discover it when you hear it. Because if not, it's looking pretty dismal, not only for you, but your generation coming after you. If this mindset don't change, if you don't learn how to discern and perceive and comprehend, it's over with. It's literally over with.